Hey, morning everybody. Welcome to RVN TV CEO Chat. My name is Al Cini.
I'm Joe Osmindi.
Are you still?
Yes, still
Good
Joe
to see
Osmindi,
you.
absolutely.
We have a terrific guest. And what we were trying to do was sort out all the many hats that Candida wears.
Okay.
Candida is one of the busiest people you've ever met.
Really?
And one of the most connected people you've ever met.
Okay.
Wonderful guest. You are the founder of CTS Partners, and I know that we have that kind of up on your lower third. But what we're really talking about today is executive leaders advisory boards, right? Executive leaders for advisory boards.
Correct.
It's ELAB. Explain ELAB real quickly, and then we'll talk about what an advisory board does for a company.
Okay. ELAB was created to advise companies, small, mid-sized companies, and an advisory board is different than a board of director. One's governance, fiduciary liability would be a board of director type board. Advisory board are members that are chosen to support the company's growth. So
Got it.
they're advisors. They're always attached to the company they're helping, but they don't have the liability, fiduciary, and governance.
Yeah, I was reading the
there's
literature you sent. You have 45 people
45
that you
members,
can essentially
45
you choose
advisors
45 advisors.
in ELAB.
Now,
yes.
any particular company that signs up doesn't get all 45 of them. They get the ones they need for the issues that they're dealing with.
Correct. We
Great.
developed a growth company catalyst, which we invite companies in to present. We send an email out to our advisors. They decide whether they want to, or they can, or they have the expertise to help that company. And they will come to the meeting. There's usually 10 or 12 takers, usually for each company we bring in.
For each company you bring in.
And the companies then is free to hire those advisors. They get to exchange information. It's free just to give advice that day. You know, you start the conversation somewhere, and that's where it starts.
Well, and
How
that's
do you select the advisors?
Very carefully.
Okay.
right.
Very carefully. A lot of the advisors are from my private network. Some of them are from my advisors, my board members that know people that believe are qualified and would fit in with the culture and our vision. I don't have a mission because I believe in visions
Sure.
and rules of conduct to go with the vision. Then they will, bring somebody in, or they would like to have somebody to apply for it. Right now, I'm the clearinghouse for any member, but I'm hoping to, as we grow, we have a board of 6 members. We have a chair for programs. We have a chair for outreach. We have a chair for the growth company catalyst. We have a marketing company. We have a PR company that's supporting us. So I'm hoping to be able to have a person that would lead our applications of members that want to come in. We don't want the organization to be huge. I think the most we can take is probably 50 members.
Okay.
I don't know what will happen in 5 years, but right now we're keeping it tight, we're keeping it close, and we're culturally all connected
you
in many ways.
Quality is the most important thing.
Quality and value.
Yeah,
yes.
that's key. So,
Yes.
so let's make connections to people out there that might be watching. Audience for our program are owners, founders of companies that could be between, let's say, 5 million and maybe 100, 150, 200 million dollars.
That's in the sweet spot.
That's your spot. That's the
a
spot.
sweet spot, yes.
Okay. Now, many of them have boards of directors.
Some do. If they're privately, usually not. They're calling it a board of directors, and sometimes it's really a board of advisors. But a board of advisor, that word is not as populated as the word board of directors.
Right, right. Board of directors is what most people think. But,
Yes.
but what a business owner really needs when they're having difficulty getting traction, having difficulties with growth, having difficulties retaining employees, what they need is advice from people who know how to solve problems like that, and that's where you come in.
And the advisors on an advisory board are usually the 4 pillars of your business, which is finance, operations, technology, human resource, marketing and sales.
Okay.
A combination of that.
Okay.
We'll be on the advisory board, and then after a year or so, they might bring an industry expert for specifics. An advisory board, I see them more around technology companies, manufacturing,
Right.
Sometimes not really pharmaceuticals, since they are public, usually have board of directors.
It's usually a
And
board of
sometimes the
directors.
CEO has his own advisor that she meets with separately. You can have a board of directors and have a board of advisors in the same company.
Sure, right.
Depending on the size of the company.
And it makes
Because
sense to do that.
you're paying them,
Right.
so it depends on the size of the company.
I mean, there are 2 aspects of governing any business. There's the aspect of making sure you do the right thing and that you're and that you're doing right by your shareholders. But then there's that other aspect of, am I doing the right things on a day-to-day basis? Am I putting my investments where they belong? Or am I, and that's where I really think something like ELAB makes a huge difference.
What happens to companies under 150 or 200 is, the strategy sometimes gets stale. They don't have a strategy, they're younger, so you build it.
Right.
The roadmap, the tactics, the people that support that strategy going forth, the culture, all that, your advisors will help you keep on target. And I could keep using the word advisor, but they will advise you on things to do or not to do.
Right.
Well,
you can take their advice, which is preferable than not to take it, because they're there to help you. And they'll keep you on course and on target on the vision that you're trying to achieve, the financial security for you, your employees, and your customers that you're serving. And to stay on target and not, because you're in the weeds, you're in the work, you need to stay out of it to grow the company.
Okay, so if my problem is selling, you have advisors who can help me with that. If my problem is manufacturing efficiency, you have advisors who can help me with that. If my problem is supply chain management, you've got advisors who can help me with that. So what I'm kind of having in my head here, Candida, is it's like Mission Impossible. You've got 45 photographs of experts in a little portfolio that you keep.
With bios on the website.
With bios on the website. You've got all that.
And it's very prestigious. I mean, I have CEOs of $80 billion companies and CEOs that have their own company at 10, 20 million that have bought and sold their own companies.
And what you do is put together a SWOT, a company that has some challenges, facing some challenges, gives you a call.
Right.
They explain, and you mentioned, by the way, in your material that the first conversation is gratis to find out what it is they need to see what it is. And then your proposal includes that selected list of advisors that address specifically the problem that you uncovered in that interview.
With my style, or my model.
By the way, her style is she has the best style. But go on, let's hear about your model. I want to hear about that. Everybody else needs to learn. You're so good at this, so go ahead.
So my style is that when I meet with a company, and this started because a client wanted to build an advisory board 5 years ago.
Okay.
Right,
And then I grew it from there and realized that advice of one is good, but an advice of 4 is better than 1.
Right.
Well, sure.
So I will talk to the client. I will understand what they're trying to do. Understand before you do anything is important. Understand how committed they are to an advisory board, because it is extra work on the CEO who's going to chair it.
Sure.
Right,
I don't chair my advisory boards. I have 4 advisory boards right now. I don't chair it. The CEO of the company chairs it, or sometimes the COO.
Got it.
Depending if there's going to be a transition from the COO to the CEO. One's retiring, whatever.
Okay.
And then I find 4 members that are culturally matched to the company and themselves, because what you don't want is advisors that always want to talk about what they think.
Right.
You need advisors that blend in and don't mind talking together about how to help the company.
Right.
It's about the conversation and solving the problems. And if there's no problem, getting them business, right?
Sure, absolutely.
The best of all. And then, right. And that's how I do it, and I manage it. It's run like a board in the sense, because there are quarterly meetings, there are monthly conference calls, there are ad hoc meetings between some of the board members and the CEO, the client. And with me, there's always monthly meetings with the client.
How long does it last?
I have boards that will last 4 years, and then maybe the company decides to sell. But normally what I've noticed, the board stays together. They have the right to leave at any time for whatever reason. But if they're there giving value and helping the company propel forward, then there's no reason to dissolve the advisory board. They're stipend, they're not paid. It's not like a board of directors where a lot of times they have major salaries to go with it. Yeah.
You know, actually, just based on the way you answered Joe's question, great question, Joe, by the way.
I'm glad you have him on the show.
He does this, I know.
That's
he's
great questions.
But based on the way you answered Joe's question, that's another value proposition for ELAB. If there's a company that's thinking about an exit at some point, but they want to add value to the company before they offer it for sale, a great way to boost the value of a company is to retain the expertise of advisors like ELAB advisors to help you grow your business before you offer it, before you put it on the blog.
The members, some of the members are well versed in succession planning, selling companies, investment, having investment companies come in, investors, private investors. A lot of them are, even more widely connected than I am.
Right.
I'm just a conduit of getting them together. They're the connection to the knowledge that my clients or any company would need to have for growth.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, now, I remember everything you say.
Uh-oh.
Candida Seasock is an
trouble.
expert. You really have to listen very carefully to her.
Okay.
You said a few minutes ago, you said, you don't work with mission statements, you work with vision.
Yes.
And I remember that. Explain that to me. What do you mean by that?
I think that's because working for corporate America throughout my career somewhere, the mission was so embedded in my brains that, and they all sounded the same to me. I mean, this is just me.
No, it's
So-
not just you. Believe me.
yeah.
Go ahead.
So when I created ELAB, I said, there's got to be a vision. This has got to go somewhere, and it's got to serve the community in the greater Philadelphia area, mindfully saying it's greater Delaware, and a lot of our members are they're global, they're worldwide.
right,
I mean, I have clients in Luxembourg and in Ireland, but we're all based in this 30 or 40 mile area.
Right.
Okay.
So I've always believed the vision carries, and the rules of conduct to go with a vision carries the company forward.
That's what glues everybody together.
Yes.
I mean, that's what makes us as a group different from us.
Yeah, and our rules of
as just
conduct have to do with
individuals.
conversation, honesty, and integrity. And
Really?
any company needs that
Right.
to move it forward.
So those are the things you help with too, propelling
Yes.
people through, helping them develop their own
Yes.
vision, helping them develop their own core values, the things that make them who they are.
Yes.
And I mean, that's, okay, so you've been doing this, now I know you primarily as a bartender. I know you've been a bartender your whole life and you just started, I'm making that up. Candida, you have
Knowing
been,
the fact that I can't even get on a bar stool, somebody has to lift me.
I know.
No,
Now,
I'm
Candida-
really a bartender.
Here's
could
what
you,
I know.
Could you have picked horseback riding?
I
or,
know.
I don't know, something
know.
sillier than that.
You have been, I want to make them, kind of jokingly making the point that you've been doing this for a long time.
This business is now 15 years old.
It's significant.
Building boards, I've been on many boards throughout my existence, including board of directors in a hospital and a university and just general business. This is, it's on its 50th year.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, see, and that level, and yet, you're not using 50-year-old ideas, you're using
No.
modern ideas to solve problems,
Yes.
which is important. I mean, the interesting thing about the challenge you face is that you got to take all that experience and know when to use it and when to put it aside, because the world is a different place than it was back then.
Yes. But
What
I
inspired you
also
to do that?
learned,
What inspired you to do this kind of work? It's very interesting.
I noticed there was a big lack in the market. There are wonderful groups that are peer groups for CEOs and,
Okay.
and executives, let's say
Sure.
executives.
Vistage is, for example.
Vistage,
those- yep.
C2, Ballantree, you can
Sure.
name a lot of great ones. But I noticed that advisory boards were not propelling forward. An advisory board are created for the company. Specifically, it's not a peer group. Usually the members are much more experienced than the CEO of that company in vast areas, and they become the confidant of the CEO.
Sure.
So I noticed that it was missing, and it's missing from one of our members. He heads the outreach program, Tom Scuria. Him and a couple of other board members did an analysis in the U.S. There isn't anything like it. There's places that you can apply and get picked to be on an advisory board, and then you could do it by phone, by whatever, but there isn't one in Philadelphia that's actually an organization that supports that.
That
Okay,
whole,
right.
And we meet 6 times a year.
okay.
It's not a burden on the members, and
Right.
we always meet in Philadelphia, seems to be a good center point. But our members, are global, worldwide. They have
That's-
clients all over the place, and they work all over the place.
That's good.
Yeah.
We need to take a break. We've got I can think of a couple of hundred questions to ask you.
Is that
and,
all?
Maybe more.
Okay.
We'll be back with more of Candida
Great.
Seasock after these messages on CEO Chat.
Stick around.
Welcome back, everybody, to CEO Chat. My name is Al Cini,
I'm still Joe Osmendi.
and this is still Candida Seasock.
Nice to see you.
I haven't changed.
Yeah, no, and you better not. Candida, during the break and before the program, we were talking about ELAB and the kind of outcomes that you get. Maybe you can outline for us what kind of results you've seen for clients with ELAB.
for clients with advisory boards, because each member might be sitting on somebody else's board of directors or advisory board. And the members, we call them trusted advisors because basically there's a process we go through to bring them, to qualify them.
Okay.
And they qualify themselves whether they want to be part of it or not. It's a
Okay.
two-way street. So, but for me, the advisory boards have been a key for the growth of the companies.
Okay.
I would say all my clients have grown through the knowledge from the advisory board, or they've sold, or they finally did this, the first generation to the second generation,
Sure.
succession planning. I have a very hearty story lately. Had a manufacturing advisory board, and the president, who was there for a long time with the company, got a fabulous offer of a job and an opportunity somewhere else. And then the CEO's cancer came back. So in 1 week, we lost the CEO of the company, we lost the president of the company for another job, because the CEO passed away. And we loved the guy. He was just a fantastic human being. Everything he was doing for the company, the manufacturing company. And we had one board member that could actually run the company while we decide while the new owner decides who's going to be the ongoing CEO and the ongoing members of his executive team.
So
but if we did not pick the board as well as we did, then we would not have had, we had the quickest succession planning in the earth, right? You lose 2 key people in a company while it's still running and it's got 50 employees.
Well, you're highlighting a point that I think is really important. They're executive leaders on advisory boards.
Yes.
So the people that you have on the team to help these companies are people who have run companies in the past and know how to do it.
And they
could step up and do that if they need to.
Yes.
Wow. See that? A lot of companies that may not even realize they're in the kind of jeopardy where they could use that kind of help.
Right. You hope you never get into that jeopardy of that case.
Well, that's a unique situation, but it's not all that unique. It can happen. And
Is
these are
there a typical size company you work with?
They're usually under 100 to 150
Okay.
that I work at. Or I get a company at 40, get them to 60 million, 80 million, or 90 million. Then what happens? They have their own executive team, or we help them build their own executive team. Sometimes I stay and sometimes I don't, but I'm always in touch with my client.
right.
You know.
Wow. Okay, so and another point. Certainly, it's important to have people on your advisory board who have the expertise you need to solve the problem
clients,
you might have,
yes.
to address the challenges
Yes.
you're facing. But it's also important that they're a good kind of behavioral fit. They have to be a good personality fit
culture.
for the people they're working with.
Yeah.
They have to fit the culture
Yeah.
of the company that they're helping. Isn't that true?
That's correct.
And that's part of your selection and assignment process.
It is part of my selection when a client engages me to build their advisory board. It is
Okay.
part of that.
Right.
And it's also part of ELAB members and the way they think, because the ELAB members is 45. They go across industries. We don't duplicate members. We have a little bit of crossover, but it's not the same expertise.
Right.
Like we have 2 accounting firms, but they're different in expertise.
Okay.
And we have 2 law firms, one are completely different than the other. When it comes to CEOs and COOs of companies, it doesn't matter. It's just if they own their own business, we try not to duplicate the expertise.
Okay.
But they're self-made executives that have run companies. They've sat on boards. They're now coming to the realization that to keep small and mid-sized companies running well, to help them grow, they need other talent that they can't afford to hire. So a board of advisor would be specifically the culture that you would want to have as the CEO of the company, but you wouldn't be able to hire them individually,
Right.
nor would they want to be hired, but they can help.
They would help out. They're not there full-time necessarily.
No,
they're
it's
there
their
when
meetings.
they're needed, when
Yes,
they're needed.
yeah.
And over a period of time, as the company's needs evolve, the composition of the advisory board can change.
It does. Sometimes it does. I've had cases where one of the advisors had his own consulting company specifically to that particular kind of business. That's why we brought him into the board. He ended up doing a major project, so he ended up stepping off the board, and we had to find somebody else. And then we realized we needed to find an industry person, so we did not really refill that position on the board, we filled it with someone else. We try to keep the board to 4 or 5 people.
Okay.
Otherwise, the conversation gets lost.
Well, you need to have
Yeah.
enough different pairs of eyeballs looking at things to make sure
Right.
you get a good overall
But
view of things.
there is one other funny note of when I run the advisory board. Financials are last.
Okay,
And there's always a big joke because people are beginning to catch on to that. The reason I put financials last, because you can get lost in the numbers and never get to why the numbers aren't changing. And
Well,
to me,
that's
marketing, sales, operation,
so important.
human capital, that's what moves the financials.
That is, a lot of people don't understand this, but
Yeah.
a spreadsheet is an effect. It's not a
Yeah,
cause.
that's right.
So you can't start with a spreadsheet and figure
Right.
out what to do. You got to start with what you need to do.
Yeah.
That is how you change the spreadsheet. And your background, by the way, is I know you've been a CFO in the
I was
past.
a CFO twice. I was at Deloitte. I was at Grant Thornton, but at Grant Thornton I was a CIO.
Uh-huh.
At Deloitte, I was a worker bee, and one of the managing partners wanted me to get my CPA, and I was stubborn. I was young, and I was stubborn. Like I haven't changed now, but I was young then. I had an excuse. And he said, I want you to be CFO for this company, and you tell me whether you want to go in that profession or not. And it was the best experience
I'll
for
bet
me.
it was. It was a great experience.
Because then I said, I don't want to be a CFO.
Well,
That's it. I got the numbers. I understand all of it. Well, at that time, I wanted technology because technology was in its moving fast stage
right. It
in
was
the
evolving
80s.
and moving very quickly.
Yeah.
I know, advancing very quickly.
And
Still
technology
is, but-
didn't talk back to you.
Well,
Right.
that's true. If only we could do something about those pesky employees and customers. If only we didn't have to deal with them, everything would be
That's
just
right.
fine. I
Yeah.
know.
But
I
in
know.
those days, I had an accent, so to me, talking was not my favorite thing.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Well, but you're good at it, and
I've learned.
You know, I mean, there are a couple of other directions I still want us to go in, and we have a limited amount of time.
Sure.
I want you to spend a little bit of time on CTS Partners because I know you still have that company.
Yeah, well, CTS Partner is my main provider, my livelihood. CTS Partner was created so I could advise. I started out with technology companies, advising them on their growth and the roadmap and what they need to do to bring the company to the next level and the next level. And then I evolved into, I had background in manufacturing, supply chain, medical offices. The only type of company I haven't been an advisor in has been pharmaceutical.
Okay, and that's the okay. Now, and you
they're
also
big.
mentioned at one point your network, and with you, it's a capital N network. You are one of the most connected people I know. Being networked in all industries, not
Right.
just one particular industry, having a broad base of people that you associate with, and remembering what they're all capable of and how they can
Thank
help
God for LinkedIn.
you. Well, you know, I mean, this is something you're just naturally good at. Maybe you can spend a minute or two on the importance of networking.
Well, for a person who was very shy, who didn't believe in networking, who would like to go to the office and just stay there, I realized that the whole world was out there that I was not touching base with.
Right.
And once I started talking to people and going to, I think I started off in 1982 when NWCT came about. There was 10 women. I was one of them that developed Network for Women in Technology, which was new at the time, and it still exists, that organization. And that's when I learned networking was powerful, not only to meet people, but to learn.
Well,
Yeah.
not
And
to use people, but
not
to
use
learn
people, to
from
learn.
people.
That's right.
That's not network is not about how you can use
Correct.
somebody,
Network is about helping and giving back,
and
everything
that's how
else evolves around it.
by paying forward all the time. That's how
Yeah.
that's karma, in a way. And
Right.
and I know you know that you understand that better than
Yes.
better than most people do. Then we're at that part of the program where you get to tell everybody how to reach you. I just want to recap. You're a company out there that might be facing challenges in your business. You might be thinking about an exit over the next couple of years. If you want a team of advisors to help you grow the value of your business and move forward, you want to call Candida Seasock.
Right.
So go ahead and look in your camera and tell everybody how to reach you. It's right over there on your right.
Oh, my right.
There you go. Look over there.
That one?
No, that's on a camera.
That one there?
That right there.
We can have
There you
more
go.
fun with this.
Look right
All
there.
right, all right. You can reach me at 609-471-1188, and my email is on LinkedIn. It's under Candida Seasock. And then ELAB is Executive Leaders for Advisory Boards, and you will find it under Advisory Board Organization in Google, or whatever you use as a search. So,
ELAB, Executive
ELAB.
Leaders for Advisory
Right.
Boards.
And you can see all the members. There's obviously a place that you can contact us with. and I will be glad to help. Right now, everything is flowing to me until I find somebody that it can flows to.
Yeah, well, this is perfect.
Thank
Candida,
you.
you're definitely somebody people want to call, and I'm hoping they'll be doing that in droves. They really need to call you. It was a pleasure having you
Thank
on
you.
CEO Chat today. Candida
you.
Seasock, thank you.
Thank you for the twice.
Oh, it was
My
such a
second
pleasure.
time.
And you've got so much
Thank
to
you.
offer as always. We'll get you back again.
Thank you.
And thanks all of you for joining us on CEO Chat. We'll be back again in a half an hour with another episode. Until then, my name is Alcini,
I'm Joe Osmendi.
and we'll see you soon.
Thank you.
See you next.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Excellent.
Good to see you.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Perfect.